And well, let's get started. Perfect. Well, welcome to today's webinar. The title is Raising Awareness of Hydrogen Best Practices from the HYPOP Project. And you will see that we're planning on presenting you the main results from the HYPOP project, where several partners are here. So you will hear from different experts from different fields of the project, which I think it's really interesting. Just so you know, this is the agenda for today's webinar. So we're gonna have an introduction about the project and also a short overview of the role of hydrogen in the EU. And then we're going to be talking about perception, insights, and communication. So we're going to be talking about the public awareness and perceptions around hydrogen technologies. How did we get to know that? Then we will also be talking about how we developed the public engagement strategy and the activities. And then we're going to be talking about the social life cycle assessment results, and finally, an overview of the external communication activities. And of course, one of the main things or one of the most important sections or parts of this webinar is the Q&A session and open discussion, that we encourage you to ask us questions, comment on anything that you think is interesting or not as well. You can type in the chat, or you can wait until this section comes, which is going to be 10 minutes before the webinar ends. And yeah, we will be welcoming your comments and your questions. So just so you know, today's speakers, well, that's me. I'm Daniela Martin. I'm representing the Institute for Medicine Innovation, which is a nonprofit organization registered in Ireland. And I also have here Funny, which I'm gonna let him introduce himself.
Hi everyone. So I'm Fanny van Rooyen. I'm also with IMI as Communications Officer, and I'll be taking you through some of the slides.
Thank you, Fanny. And we also have Ilaria.
Yes, hi. Ilaria Schiavi from Environment Park, Italy, and we are the coordinators of the project.
Thank you. And we have, I think Diego is joining us in a few minutes. Oh no, Diego is here. Hi, Diego.
Hello, everybody. So, Diego Iribarren, Senior Researcher in the Systems Analysis Unit of India Energy, mainly working in the field of life cycle sustainability assessment of hydrogen systems and contributing within HYPOP to the social life cycle assessment of hydrogen solutions. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. And we also have Sumant.
Hello everyone, myself Sumant. I am a predoctoral researcher at India Energy Institute. Today I will be presenting social life cycle assessment results.
Thanks. And finally, Valeria.
Hello everyone, nice to see you. I'm Valeria, I'm Communication Manager at APRE, the agency for the promotion of research in Europe, and I will be presenting the communication activities of the project.
Excellent, thank you. So before we get started with Ilaria's slides, I would like to take a moment, because I see that we have a few participants here. If you would like to introduce yourselves, if you want in the chat, or if you want to open your microphone and your video, that would be great. But yeah, if you feel comfortable, of course, and if not, you can just use the chat. Well, I can see Mariana.
Yeah, I can start. So I'm not shy in this moment. So hello, everyone. I'm Marianna Franchino from Environment Park, and I work in HYPOP Project supporting the coordination activity. Well, I'm excited to hear about this webinar from and the explanation from my colleagues. So hello, everyone.
Thanks, Mariana.
Okay, let's do like that. Maybe they will a lot of participants will share the experiences. So I'm also working on HYPOP. I'm in the Belgium side. So I'm from Cluster Tweet, and we work not only on hydrogen topic, but all the renewable solution for the energetic transition. But me, I'm very focused on hydrogen, so that's why I'm working on HYPOP project, and yeah.
Thanks, Simon. I don't know if Isabel, Beatriz, Maria Jose, Alba, if any one of you, Isabel. Okay, so Isabel is introducing herself in the chat. She works for the GNP EGTC, which I don't know what it stands for. But they are partners in the HYPOP project, and she's interested in communication related to hydrogen. Oh, no worries. So your microphone doesn't work. It's perfectly fine using the chat. Thank you, Isabel.
Hello, my name is Beatriz. I am from INEGI in Portugal. We are RTO related with hydrogen, and we have some projects with energy communities as well. So I am here to learn more about this subject. Thank you.
Thank you, Beatriz. Maria, I don't want to put you on the spotlight, but I can see your face. Do you want to go next?
Hi. Sorry for the delay. I guess that you are introducing yourselves.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm Maria Panadero from CNH2 from Spain. So, well, let's see how the workshop evolves.
Perfect. Thank you, Maria. Olga?
Yes, I was preparing myself.
Awesome.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Olga and I work for Grand Garant and we are based in Prague, Czech Republic. We focus on communication and dissemination for various Horizon Europe funded projects, and recently we have started working on a project paper that deals with hydrogen. So basically what I'm hoping to find here is some inspiration on how to communicate the hydrogen topics that I think are quite complex. So I'm looking for some good practices on how to make the communication flow the best possible. So I'm excited to be here.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah, we're going to be talking about that. And if you have any more questions, we're always available via email. We will be sharing our contact
Thank
information
you so much.
at the end
that
as
would
well.
be great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So Alba says that she works in India Energy, and currently their unit is starting with some hydrogen projects too. Perfect. Thank you, Alba. And Maria Jose works at CNH2 too, and she's happy to be here on the workshop. Thank you. Okay, perfect. So right on time, because we had 10 minutes for introduction. So I'm gonna now share my screen again, and I'm gonna pass the microphone to Ilaria.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for being here. So I will just give you a brief introduction of the project so you understand what it is all about. So HYPOP Project started in June 2023. If we can go to the next slide, please, Maria, thank you. And it is about to end. It will end in September 2025. So the brief was and the objective of the project has been to understand how to raise public awareness and the trust towards hydrogen technologies. So what we will end up with, we will be developing some guidelines and good practices for supporting communication, not only to the citizens, but also to the institutional stakeholders. And we'll see why we need to speak to this category of people also. Then we are creating a social platform where we are trying to put together all the communication material about hydrogen technologies, which will support everyone else in making people understand what it is all about, and also some supports for the decision making through the definition of the indicators that are going to be used in the hydrogen social life cycle assessment. And you will hear more about it in the next few minutes. So So going to the next slide, you heard from some of our partners here. So this is the coverage, geographical coverage of the project. We have partners who are expert in hydrogen or are hydrogen clusters. So basically they work with the local area, with the local companies and institutions to introduce hydrogen in the local economy. Hydrogen as a way to, one of the possible solutions for decarbonization, not the only one, but one of the solutions. Then we have some research organization involved and some communication and stakeholder engagement specialists. The geographical coverage is important, and you will see it in a minute. So going to the next slide, this is an overview of what kind of approach we took in this project. So we started by trying to understand what is current in terms of public understanding and institutional requirement for hydrogen implementation. And we looked at different sources of information, and Thorny will explain more about it for what concerns the public understanding. And also we looked at how hydrogen is currently implemented. And we saw that there are lots of countries which are already ahead in the strategic approach and in the planification, the planning of the hydrogen economy, and other which have perhaps some local projects, but not necessarily an overall national view of the hydrogen path. Then we have been working on engaging and consulting with the target group, and you will see about the citizen engagement. I will talk a little bit about the stakeholders engagement. This material is what we will be using for developing the guidelines for engaging the citizen and also for engaging the public and institutional stakeholders supporting the successful implementation of hydrogen technologies. So going ahead, you see that the guidelines, the social life cycle assessment indicators, the communication toolkits will be how these guidelines, the support material will be delivered publicly for supporting the community in undertaking hydrogen projects. So for the next slide, you've already heard, we did decide to focus on two specific target groups: the citizens, the communication experts, and the potential end users of the hydrogen technologies, especially in the residential and in the mobility sector. And then on the other side, also those institutional stakeholders who have actually to provide the licensing, the authorization, and the permits for ensuring that these technologies can be installed and can be working in our streets or in our houses. So we had two different analyses carried out: social analysis and technical analysis. For the social analysis, you will hear a bit more from Thorny later on today. So we can go to the next slide, which is a brief summary, but as I said, you will hear more about it today. I will just talk a little bit more about the technical analysis, because I think it is important to understand that it's not just the citizens who might have, some perception of hydrogen technologies that we need to understand and try to work with, but also the institutional stakeholders need a little bit of support to understand how they can provide authorization to hydrogen, because hydrogen is a gas which has been used in the industry for a long time, so it's not a completely unknown element or unknown technology. However, the fact that now we're talking about hydrogen being installed in our streets, in our houses, creates, of course, a little bit more of concerns and a need also for being better equipped to understand the risks and to understand how to manage these risks. So we looked at permitting, safety and certification across Europe. We looked at different demonstration projects, different hydrogen valleys, which are these new ecosystems which have been created with production, transportation, storage and use of hydrogen, for understanding how they have been permitted, how the safety authorization have been issued, and to understand where there have been problems, but also where there have been good practices that could be shared all around Europe. If we look at the next slide, you will see the geographical coverage of our analysis. We had a brief, which was to look in particular to the countries which joined Europe in the last few years, so the so-called EU 13 countries. Of course, we covered also the countries that are represented by the consortium, and we looked also at those countries in Europe which have been at the forefront in terms of implementing the hydrogen economy. So those who have already overcome some of the barriers that we have found in our analysis. So going quickly through the next two slides, we looked at how safety of hydrogen has been perceived by the institutional stakeholders and how they've implemented measures to deal with the risk which might be perceived, which are associated with hydrogen. And we saw that there are the four runner countries which have already in place some best practices. Other countries such as Italy, for example, where there is still a bit of regulatory gaps, for example, lack of guidance on how to implement safety around hydrogen technologies. And then there are countries where there is still not quite an understanding of how to deal with this issue. I'm talking about, again, regulatory issues, because, as I mentioned, the hydrogen gas and the hydrogen technologies have been applied in industry for a long time. So it is known what is the potential danger of the gas. Of course, the risks changes because we are now in a public environment and no longer in an industrial environment. Looking at then at the permitting aspects, because of course when you need to build something, you also need to have permits. You need to make sure that you don't pollute the environment, your emissions are controlled, etc., etc. Again, we saw that the countries where there is the most knowledge of the hydrogen, because of the longer time since they have introduced these installations, they are the one better equipped in terms of regulation or in terms of supporting the local authorities in permitting these new technologies. So these are two factors that we took in consideration and that we are using also to develop some guidelines to support the implementation of permitting a safety regulation across Europe. Carrying on with our presentation, then we looked at working with these same target groups, public engagement workshops, of which this is one, but also stakeholders engagement workshops. So talking to those fire safety authorities and permitting authorities to understand with them what are the major barriers, and most of the time is a lack of information or a lack of direction or even a lack of previous cases that can guide their operation. So we work with them with local workshops in local languages to understand and to communicate the best practices that we have found throughout Europe. We've done a number of these events, and we are actually still doing a couple in the next month, one in Poland and one in Italy. But from the one that we have already done, we have some takeaways. We learn quite a lot, and I think that if you click, Daniela, we will see appearing them on the screen. So for sure, it's necessary for those who want to implement this technology to speak as soon as possible and to engage the public authorities to understand what are the barriers and to understand if there are some approaches, like for example, some engineering approaches that can be used to work together to obtain the permits and the necessary authorization. For sure, it is useful to have some common guidelines. We often found that in different regions in the same country might have different approaches. So it is useful to see a common guidance for everyone, and also a previous case study which can help in the guidance. Having a clear regulatory framework, of course, reinforces the trust and the ability to work of these authorities. And I think that there is still other points which are more about safety. For sure, the authorities needs to be talked to, and they need to be worked with together to communicate the fact that hydrogen technologies are well known, and therefore there are already in places measures for the safety of these technologies. And also to make sure that they don't go to the extreme of asking for safety measures which are even too much for the risks of the hydrogen. But there is a real work around the engineering and the technical specification of the technologies. Social life cycle assessment is a tool which you will hear from and which we have explored because it can give us also some indicators and some pointers for the decision making. So the colleagues from IMDEA looked at a specific case study which is real close to a implementation of hydrogen in our daily life. So for example, the bus. And so Diego and Sumant will explain about their findings. And finally, we are now working on these guidelines, which will be issued at the end of the project. So September next year, there will be guidelines for the involvement of citizens and the communication, but also the guidelines and best practices for the public stakeholders, looking at the permitting and safety and certification best practices that we found throughout Europe, because let's face it, an hydrogen refueling station in Spain has the same risks as a hydrogen refueling station in Bulgaria. So this is the message that we want to bring, that we can learn from what has been done already in other countries. And then, of course, we are also developing the social life cycle assessment indicators which support the decision making and the public acceptance. I think that I've come to the end of my presentation. You will find a web platform also with all the material that we are collecting. And if you are developing informative material about new hydrogen technologies or hydrogen installation in your country, in your region, please get in touch, because we would like to feature as much material as possible on this team. So you will see the contacts here for myself, but also for the whole project. And please follow us and join our community. Thank you very much, and I'll give the floor now to my next speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ilaria. Well, and now we're going to be talking about perception, insights, and public engagement activities. And for that, we're going to be having Funny.
Sorry, I was muted. Thanks, Danny. Yes, we can proceed. So as Ilaria briefly touched upon, to understand public awareness and perceptions around hydrogen in the EU, we conducted a state-of-the-art literature review, first of all, of public awareness and perceptions in Europe. Then we did a secondary analysis of a previously conducted public opinion survey by Gallup. And we also conducted a social media analysis of public engagement across the EU 27. So for the literature review, which involved Gallup, the literature review was separate, sorry. So the main findings for that, it involved about 30 different sources, 30 studies that we looked at, and we collated all of those. And the main findings were that regional specifics and overarching cultural predispositions are important. So not everyone in Europe has the same idea about hydrogen. So different publics have different opinions. But we saw that there was broad support for hydrogen, but a lack of detailed understanding. And you will see that this is a theme that goes across all of our efforts. So local infrastructure projects, as a result, face challenges due to the not in my backyard attitude, which is to say that most citizens are happy to say hydrogen seems like a great solution. It seems like a clean energy source. But if you want to talk to them about installing hydrogen infrastructure in their neighborhood, then they are a bit skittish and have some fears and paranoia that we need to address. So there's an increase in European enthusiasm, but concerns about costs and infrastructure safety in particular persist. So this means there's a universal call for strategic educational campaigns and clear communication on hydrogen's benefits and safety. So then the secondary analysis was about the Gallup survey that involved about 27,000 citizens across the EU. And we looked at the data from that survey and did a secondary analysis. So the main findings from that was similarly that there was broad awareness but limited in-depth understanding. And most respondents viewed hydrogen as a good solution for reducing energy dependence and also perceived it as a sustainable energy source. We also saw that Western European countries showed a higher agreement level with hydrogen safety than Eastern Europe. And there were near consensus that hydrogen can be a cleaner alternative to fossil fuels. Furthermore, from the same Gallup survey, we did another analysis, a more in-depth statistical analysis to determine the individual level determinants of hydrogen acceptance. The main findings from that were that education significantly enhances support for hydrogen. So campaigns like HYPOP and similar hydrogen efforts are important and they make a difference. So people concerned about the environment were also shown to often have limited awareness of how hydrogen is used in transport, heating, and industry. And those same individuals generally view hydrogen positively for reducing energy dependence and environmental harm. So in all, an improved understanding of hydrogen's environmental benefits could boost public acceptance. Lastly, we did a social media analysis. The main findings from these, which went across Twitter, Facebook, Reddit as the primary social media platforms. The main findings were that public interest in hydrogen varied. Like we said earlier, with the literature review, we also found that it varies across demographics. Engagement is often driven by national policies, local events, and government announcements. So, if there's something that happens, a national policy is launched or some major infrastructure project is launched in a country that, stirs up conversation, and that's when engagement peaks. So socio-political factors also shape perceptions of hydrogen technology. Public interest varies by hydrogen topic. So for interest, there's higher interest in technological aspects like fuel cells and vehicles, but lower engagement with infrastructure and policy issues. So then, from all of these different studies that we did, the practical public engagement strategies we found should clarify hydrogen technology using simple language so people can understand it. It should directly address and clarify public safety concerns like explosiveness and residential infrastructure concerns. It should customize engagement initiatives for specific demographic and regional contexts, and it should actively involve women to close gender gaps in hydrogen awareness. That was also found. Also, it should use real-world examples to demonstrate hydrogen's practicality and benefits. It should emphasize environmental advantages and safety features, and it should engage diverse stakeholders. So industry experts, academics, NGOs, communities, policymakers, all of those should be involved so everyone is starting to speak the same language. Then from all of those lessons that we learned from the studies about the public awareness and acceptance of hydrogen, we launched co-creation workshops in 6 different countries. The purpose was to improve public understanding and trust in hydrogen. And the title of the workshops were Hydrogen Technologies Exploring Facts, Myths, and Future Perspectives. And it was hosted in the partner countries that you see listed there from November 2024 to March of this year. The structure of the workshops were to firstly provide a basic technical understanding of hydrogen energy technologies because it's important that the public have a basic understanding. Then an objective evaluation of the critical issues and doubts over cost, safety, environmental concerns, etc. To also highlight national strategies and hydrogen projects. So for each country, we had a national focus. So for instance, if the co-creation workshop was hosted, it's an online workshop, but if it's hosted in Ireland, we had a fact sheet for hydrogen projects that have been launched or that are currently ongoing in that country. And we have facts about the national strategy and national hydrogen policy in that country. We also had co-creation activities. So there was a brainstorming session about hopes and concerns from the citizens involved, as well as a newspaper article where we asked them to write something about what they feel the future of hydrogen should be in the EU. So from all of these workshops, which have now been concluded, the main takeaways that we had were that it's important if you do public engagement with citizens who have a varied understanding of hydrogen, it's important to do adequate research so that you are able to answer basic technical questions. Because sometimes you don't have a top hydrogen expert at hand, but you still need to be able to answer the basic technical questions because they will be there. So if you can, it's important to involve local experts, especially, we say local experts because the hydrogen projects are different in the various regions and the policies are different and the strategies are different. So it's important to get local experts who know what is happening in the local community. It's important to anticipate difficult but predictable questions. Like for instance, the citizens will invariably ask about hydrogen versus electric batteries. And there's good solid facts and evidence about why hydrogen works better in certain instances, and you need to be aware of those to answer those questions. It's important to be honest, clear, and transparent. So one of the analogies we've used quite a bit is hydrogen as champagne. So it's not for every day. It's expensive, but it is perfect for special occasions, something like that. So it's clear and honest, and it speaks to simple language. Then to encourage participant engagement. So if you just have a one-way conversation, that's not going to do much. You need to have a two-way conversation. You need to have the people, be involved. That's why we did the co-creation workshops, and we asked for introductions. So we have a conversation, and you have the citizens speak back and say this is the concerns that we have, and then you can say this is how we are going to address those concerns. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fanny. Okay, so now I'm gonna pass the microphone to Sumant and Diego. They will be talking about the social life cycle assessment results.
Thank you. So I will present the 3 first slides, and then Sumant will take over. So first, let's talk about why hydrogen. So hydrogen is framed within the search for affordable and clean energy. This affordable and clean energy is linked to Sustainable Development Goal number 7 from the United Nations. But if we take a look at the different SDGs, and we can see no poverty, zero hunger, good health, well-being, quality education. So we see that many other SDGs are referring to social aspects. So that's why we have to contextualize hydrogen solutions with all dimensions, all sustainability dimensions. So when we talk about hydrogen systems, they have very solid advantages regarding versatility in terms of applications in the transport sector, residential sector, industry. They have versatility also in terms of feedstocks to be used to produce this hydrogen. And also advantages in terms of potential emissions, only water from the let's say, the combination of hydrogen and oxygen, a high energy content per kilogram of hydrogen. But we also have to think about potential circumstances such as, the dependence on electricity, potentially increase economic cost, and also social acceptance. So it's very important that we identify the hotspots and bottlenecks along the hydrogen value chain and the environmental, economic, and social aspects. So that's why on this slide we can see the importance of adopting a supply chain perspective when evaluating sustainability, and in particular for the social dimension. This is a illustrative supply chain. So typically in social assessment, we can stay at the plant where hydrogen is produced, for instance, but we have to understand that there are many suppliers involved along the supply chain, and that social issues can happen across the different plants in the supply chain. And we have a tool, a methodology called social life cycle assessment that can help us to consider this supply chain perspective. It's more typically used in the environmental dimension, but the use of this methodology for social life cycle assessment is being increased. So HYPOP considers the adaptation and specifications for the social life cycle assessment methodology when specifically applied to hydrogen systems. And that's what we can see in this slide regarding 2 contributions developed within the HYPOP project. One was a framework for social life cycle assessment of hydrogen-related systems for decision makers in general and policymakers in particular, where crucial features include materiality assessment, social hotspot analysis, and multi-criteria decision making. And then we developed a second framework that is more oriented towards reporting to citizens. And here I want to highlight 2 main features. The first one is the use of default stakeholder categories and indicators, such as minimum wage for salary, health expenditure for health and safety, gender wage gap for discrimination, children in employment for child labor, frequency of forced labor, and contribution of the sector to economic development. And also the emphasis on the use of visualization techniques for better reporting of the results, and also to have a better understanding for citizens in general. And now someone will present this in a specific case study where you can understand better the concepts involved. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Thank you, Dio, for the presentation. So now I'll be presenting the case study included in the HYPOP project. So this is the overall case study where we will be talking about the hydrogen bus transport system, which covers hydrogen fuel cell bus and also hydrogen refueling station. But in hydrogen refueling station, we will be producing on-site hydrogen with PEM electrolyzer and also electricity generation with PV panels at on-site. So this is the system boundary of the case study. So in common to include this residential and mobility case study, which is hydrogen refueling station and hydrogen fuel cell bus into an overall system, we had to choose a function that is 15 passenger kilometers that we had chosen for this case study, so that we will be including the residential and mobility studies into one as an all hydrogen bus transport system, which we are seeing as a hydrogen bus operation, as we need for the bus operation hydrogen, which comes from the hydrogen refueling station. So for this case study, we had gathered inventory data, which is the second stage of the methodological framework that Diego had presented. In this inventory data that we had gathered, we will be collecting worker hours and economical values, economical data related to the components involved in the supply chain of the hydrogen fuel cell bus and hydrogen refueling station. So the gathered inventory data will be computationally built in the OpenLCS software with the help of Silica database, which evaluates and gives us the social results that we are presented here which we can see here in the form of bubbles. Here we had 6 social indicators, as we had carried out a European project eGhost, where we had learned some lessons with respect to hydrogen specific case studies, from which we had chosen these social indicators. In the social indicators, there are like in the presented social indicators, we had 5 negative social indicators and 1 positive social indicator, which is in green, we can see here, which is contribution to economic development. So here we can see also the country's flags inside the bubbles, which represent the social hotspots. For example, if we look at fair salary indicator, Spain and China were contributing the most in the entire supply chain of the hydrogen bus transport system. It is because Spain is the hosting country where hydrogen refueling station and hydrogen fuel cell bus were operated. And China is the second hotspot because it is one of the biggest supply chain country in the entire hydrogen bus transportation system, which is why these 2 countries are common in the 6 social indicators. We can also see to the right in the table, for the Spain, bus driver is the only impact hotspot that we had identified. It is because due to the worker hours, that with respect to the functional unit, 15 passenger kilometers that we had chosen, which is why the bus driver social impacts are higher, that Spain was contributing in this bus transportation system. This huge, while China has steel from China and battery and membranes, these are supplied from China, which is why China is the second social hotspot that we had identified in the entire bus transportation system. If we go into the next slide, here we can see closely the social hotspots specifically related to the Europe, and we can see Spain, Germany, and UK were contributing the most. And as I had already mentioned in the previous slide, Spain is contributed due to its hosting nature, while Germany is one of the biggest supply chain contributor after China, because of this, Germany has also contributed in other social indicators, which we can see here. The social results that presented also in this are only for the top 3 countries for each individual indicator that we had chosen. With this kind of results, it will help in decision-making process, and also it enhances science-based social acceptance in the entire concept of sustainability. So if we go to the next slide, we were also presenting here how the ticket might be looked in future if it is in hydrogen fuel cell bus. For example, with the ticket itself, we had barcode and the sustainable development goals which are mentioned, and behind backside of the ticket we had a quote stating that how they were building the future and what their contribution in the supply chain of this hydrogen fuel cell bus. Apart from this, to the right side of the picture, we can see in the image the supply chain and how the social impacts with respect to the hydrogen fuel cell bus transportation system, and which can be visually seen here. In this way, the promotion of hydrogen related systems can be taken place in future. This is one of the idea that to be used in future. Thank you.
Thank you, Diego and Sumant. So we're gonna have the final presentation of today's webinar, and that's going to be presented by Valeria.
Yes, hello everyone. As I said before, we will go through quickly the communication strategy and in general the communication activities for HYPOP. Okay, so the communication strategy and dissemination as well has been developed based on 4 pillars. Just to go through very quickly, because then we will analyze each one of them. The first one is the support of the project engagement activities. So not only through promotion, but also to reaching out to the target group. The second pillar is the dissemination of the project output. So to make sure that the end users of the research will be able to implement HYPOP result in the research as well. The third pillar is the establishment of links and synergies with other projects and international initiatives. And finally, the exploitation strategy. So for the first pillar, for the support of the engagement activities, we have mapped the relevant target audiences in order to understand which people we were reaching out to, not only for, let's say, what it was promised in the project grant agreement, but what people are actually interested in, and in general, which people are better to be engaged. Here you will find this note that, of course, is the basis of communication. So different audiences have different needs. And this means that HYPOP messages need to be tailored to reach out to different audiences in order to better raise the interest and know what to highlight for the project. To do, let's say, this work of engagement and mapping, we used different tools and instruments. So we of course have social media channels, since it's very easy to reach people this way, and in general is a good strategy to use them. Our website that is also a repository space for the materials that have has been developed. And then we promoted events and conferences, but also tried to participate as much as possible, as in-person, let's say, communication is still very strong to better engage and reach out to people. And then we developed some physical, but also the digital version of communication materials that can be used to promote the project. Here you will just see an example of a screenshot of the website and an example of the things that we post on social media. So the participation to an event. And then, as you can see, we also developed this brand identity that we use throughout the whole project in order to have recognizability among the audience and it's easier, let's say, to have a better positioning using this brand identity in a efficient and coherent way. So yeah, can move on. Here, this is another example, is the QR code with a slide that we developed in order to encourage people to join our community. And as you can see, this is another declination of the brand identity of the project that makes it recognizable. And speaking about brand identity in general, visual aids is very important to use this type of materials. So in order to engage people who are not from the sector and do not have a knowledge of the hydrogen sector, but in general of all the technical aspects, it's very useful to develop videos, for example, or infographics to spread tailored messages, because let's say a large portion of how we understand things and how we know things goes through visual images. So it's a very useful tool to engage audiences that are not technical and in general helping them understand, for example, the basics of hydrogen use, its application, how it works, and also to highlight the benefits of these applications. So this was a task that we have in the project, and all of the materials will be, and some already are available on our channels and on social media, on the website. So also other people will be able to understand and use them as well. Okay. This is an example of the infographic that has been developed. So the role of hydrogen in the renewable energy framework. As you can see, by itself, it's a bit hard to understand everything. These are meant to be used as aid. So there is still the need to have a brief explanation regarding what the person is seeing, but using simple images or clear images, it's a plus, let's say, in helping people understand. So the following slide as well is an infographic of this fuel cell, and here you can see there is also a brief explanation. So this could be it's as well a bit more standalone than the previous one. Okay, we can. Regarding the second pillar, so the dissemination of the project, the aim is to strengthen the project impacts by sharing the results of the research. Of course, our task as communication managers and in general for the dissemination is to spread the results of other work packages. So, of course, there has been cooperation and coordination in developing the materials and in sharing them so that the right end users will be able to further implement them. To do so, we have created the repository space in HYPOP's website, so all the materials that are public can be downloaded and can be shared. And we, of course, shared again across all of our channels the results with promotional campaigns. And as I said before, there has been also in-person activity of promoting the results to the relevant target audience. Here, just a couple of pictures of our in-person dissemination activities. This was at the Hydrogen Week in November. So we can go on. And we can move on to the third pillar, which is the establishment of links and synergies with other projects. And of course, this is also to strengthen the impact of HYPOP, since by establishing synergies and networks, it is possible to amplify, let's say, each other's voice. And in particular, we have promoted through the social media campaign different hydrogen projects that were more, let's say, on the field of implementing hydrogen technologies. And we have done, as I said, so on social media, and as Ilaria mentioned before, through the section in our website, which we will be seeing in a bit. Yes, and this section is called the H2 Project Showcase, in which we want to highlight, as I said, the implementation of hydrogen projects and hydrogen technologies. Let's say, trying to convey the success stories, the benefits that they had for the community, but in general for example, the environment, and their contribution in the decarbonization process. The project showcase is focused on mobility, residential use, and implementation of technologies. And again, as Ilaria said before, if you are working on such projects and want to be featured, you can reach out to us, and we can, of course, create an entry for your project, and everything will be available. Of course, there is a bit of a spotlight as well on the communication materials created. So, for example, in this of the Hiker project, there has been developed this postcard, and then if you go on the website, you will see there are also flyers and fact sheets about each project. So we create links to all of these materials. So if somebody is interested in them, can easily reach them. And then we also put, of course, the credits and contact for each project. So you will be able to also contact the relevant person if you are interested in learning more about this project. Okay. And finally, the exploitation strategy is also to create long-lasting results that can live on after the funding period of HYPOP that will be ending in September. And we have selected some results that will be, of course, the object of this exploitation strategy, because we want other people to keep implementing these results. And of course, we want them to use what we have done, especially for the videos and infographics to raise awareness on hydrogen use. The project showcase as well will be updated because, of course, the website will live on after the project end, and we want to keep promoting the guidelines and the best practices, which are the end results of a long research, and the indicators as well. So that's it. I think my last slide is again the QR code to join our community, but I encourage you all to look us up on social media. We have LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and X. So just to keep up to our activities and get in touch if you want to be featured in the website section. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Valeria. Okay, so you can see the QR code on your screen right now, and I've also shared our contact information in the chat in case that you want to continue the discussion via email. That's also okay. I'm gonna stop sharing right now. We got a little bit too excited, so it's almost the end of the webinar. We got too excited talking about the project, but we do want to